Picture this. It's a Saturday evening. The city outside is alive, laughter spilling from restaurants, music drifting through open windows, the warm glow of strangers sharing meals together. And you're sitting alone in your apartment, phone in hand, scrolling through a contact list you've read 100 times, hoping someone will call first. Nobody does. There's a particular kind of silence that doesn't just fill a room, it fills you. It creeps into the chest, settles behind the eyes, and whispers the cruelest question a mind can ask. Is something wrong with me? Most people will spend their entire lives running from that silence. They'll fill it with noise, with crowds, with validation, with anything that temporarily mutes the ache of being alone. But here's the truth most people ignore. What if that silence isn't your enemy? What if it's the very doorway to a freedom most people never find? Today, we're exploring one of the most misunderstood forms of human freedom, the ability to be genuinely, deeply happy without needing anyone's company to feel complete. This isn't about becoming cold. It's not about isolation or indifference. It's about something far more powerful, self-sovereignty. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, built entire philosophies around this idea. They understood that the person who depends on others for their inner peace has handed over their most precious possession. In the next few minutes, we're going to walk through 12 profound Stoic lessons that will completely rewire how you think about solitude, happiness, and the quiet power of your own company. This is where everything changes. Lesson 1. Your inner world is your true home. The first lesson is this: your inner world is the only home you will never lose. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." The Stoics believed that peace isn't a place you travel to, it's a state you cultivate within. Psychology confirms this. People with strong internal locus of control report consistently higher life satisfaction. The takeaway is simple: stop renting happiness from others. Build it inside yourself. Lesson 2. Solitude is not loneliness. Solitude and loneliness are not the same thing, yet most people confuse them their entire lives. Loneliness is the pain of unwanted isolation. Solitude is the power of chosen aloneness. Seneca wrote, "Retire into yourself as much as you can." He didn't mean retreat in defeat. He meant advance inward with intention. Modern psychology backs this. People who regularly practice solitude develop greater emotional resilience and clarity. The takeaway: solitude is a discipline, not a punishment. Lesson 3. Approval is a cage with an open door. Here's the truth most people ignore. Every time you seek approval, you lock yourself in a cage you built with your own hands. Epictetus, who was born an actual slave, understood freedom better than most. He taught that the only true freedom lies in releasing what others think of you. Psychologists call excessive approval seeking sociotropy, a condition linked directly to anxiety and depression. The takeaway: you can walk out of that cage right now. The door was always open. Lesson 4. The quality of your solitude reflects the quality of your mind. The Stoics understood something powerful. A restless mind cannot survive silence. It will fill that silence with fear, fantasy, or distraction. Marcus Aurelius spent years alone on military campaigns, using that solitude to write some of the most profound philosophical reflections in human history. Research in positive psychology shows that individuals who tolerate and enjoy solitude score higher in creativity, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence. The takeaway: if you can't sit with yourself, you haven't yet met yourself. Lesson 5. Happiness that depends on others is borrowed happiness. Seneca warned, "He who follows another not only discovers nothing, he finds nothing." Borrowed happiness has an expiration date. When the relationship ends, when the party is over, when the crowd goes home, what remains? The Stoics called this eudaimonia, a flourishing that comes entirely from within, untouched by external circumstances. Psychological studies on hedonic adaptation confirm it. External sources of happiness fade rapidly. Only internally generated contentment sustains. The takeaway: true happiness is manufactured inside, never imported from outside. Lesson 6. Silence is where the strongest people go to rebuild. Every great mind in history has had a relationship with silence. Marcus Aurelius retreated into his journal. Seneca wrote letters to himself. Epictetus sat with his thoughts before speaking. This isn't coincidence, it's a pattern. When the world becomes overwhelming, the instinct of the masses is to seek noise and company. But the Stoics moved the opposite direction, inward. Neuroscience confirms that silence literally regenerates the brain. The takeaway: the person who masters silence masters themselves. Lesson 7. You cannot give what you have not found in yourself. This is where everything changes. If you haven't found peace within yourself, every relationship you enter becomes a transaction. You trading neediness for temporary comfort. Musonius Rufus taught that a person must first become whole before they can contribute wholeness to others. Modern attachment theory mirrors this exactly. Emotionally secure individuals form healthier, less dependent relationships. The takeaway: working on your relationship with yourself isn't selfish. It's the most generous thing you can do for everyone around you. Lesson 8. The fear of being alone is the fear of meeting yourself. Most people don't fear solitude, they fear what solitude reveals. In the quiet, the unprocessed grief surfaces. The ignored failures speak up. The unlived dreams return. Epictetus said, "Man is not disturbed by events, but by his opinions about events." The discomfort of solitude is not reality. It's your unexamined mind projecting its unfinished business. Psychologists call this self-confrontation anxiety. The takeaway: the thing you fear meeting in silence is the very thing you need to face. Lesson 9. Contentment is a skill, not a feeling. Here's what modern culture never tells you. Contentment is not something that happens to you. It is something you practice, deliberately, like a muscle. Seneca wrote, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things he has not, but rejoices for those he has." Positive psychology research on gratitude interventions confirms that regular contentment practice rewires the brain's default negativity bias. The takeaway: stop waiting to feel content. Start practicing it today, alone, on purpose. Lesson 10. The crowd cannot give you what only silence can. The Stoics understood something that modern psychology is only recently beginning to quantify. Crowds dilute identity. When you are constantly surrounded by others, you unconsciously mirror, perform, and adapt. You lose the thread of who you actually are. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about protecting his inner self from the noise of Rome's imperial court. Studies on social conformity show identity erosion accelerates in high-stimulation social environments. The takeaway: to know who you are, you must sometimes be willing to stand completely alone. Lesson 11. A full life is not a crowded life. Society measures a rich life by its fullness of people. Parties attended, followers accumulated, relationships maintained. But the Stoics measured richness differently. Seneca asked not how many, but how deeply. How deeply do you know yourself, your work, your purpose? Research on subjective well-being consistently shows that depth of experience, not breadth of social contact, predicts long-term life satisfaction. The takeaway: 1 hour of meaningful solitude outweighs 10 hours of empty company. Choose depth over crowd. Lesson 12. The person who needs no one to be happy is dangerous to no one and free to love everyone. The final and most powerful lesson: the man or woman who has learned to be happy alone becomes the most liberated human being alive. They love without desperation. They give without transaction. They connect without clinging. Epictetus said that freedom is the only worthy goal of a philosophical life. When you stop needing people to complete you, you begin to genuinely enjoy them. The takeaway: self-sufficiency doesn't close your heart. It finally, completely opens it. Here's the paradox that will stay with you long after this video ends. The people most desperately searching for connection are often the ones pushing it furthest away. Their need becomes visible. Their hunger becomes uncomfortable for others to be near. But the person who has sat with themselves, who has made peace with their own silence, who has built joy from the inside out, that person draws others in effortlessly. The Stoics didn't just teach philosophy. They taught magnetism. What we've walked through today isn't simply philosophy. It's a complete renovation of the inner life. The Stoics didn't teach us to avoid people or to harden our hearts. They taught us something far more radical, that a human being, at their fullest, should be able to stand in total silence, completely alone, and feel not emptiness, but power. When you stop outsourcing your happiness, something extraordinary happens. You stop settling. You stop performing. You stop drowning in the need to be chosen. You become, perhaps for the first time, genuinely yourself. The quietest rooms in the world have held the greatest transformations. Yours is waiting. The only question now is whether you're willing to sit in it long enough. If something in this video landed deeply, if one of these lessons cracked something open for you, drop it in the comments below. Tell me which lesson hit hardest and why. Your reflection might be exactly what someone else needed to read today. If this video brought you value, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember what the Stoics always knew: the most powerful company you will ever keep is your own.